So Leviticus 25 is a pretty controversial chunk of scripture, huh?
Yes, sir. And so far we've covered Leviticus 25 in two other videos on my channel. One is called Slavery in the Bible, Leviticus 25, and the other is part 2, Slavery in the Bible, Leviticus 25.
Right, you've covered a lot. But one other thing I've been wanting an answer for is verse 46, where a contrast is made, where treating Israelite servants with severity is condemned, but isn't condemned for the foreign slaves who could be acquired by Israelites.
Right, and this is probably the most popular objection that is pointed out with Leviticus 25, which I understand. Obviously, when disturbing language pops up, so should our ears. But what I do and think is good practice for trying to understand ancient manuscripts, regardless of the religious text, is to look closer at what is actually being said here. Because first of all, when we read things in English, we tend to take things at face value. But the reality of how Hebrew is translated into English, most times you need to dig in and try to understand what's actually being said.
Okay?
So, for instance, when this passage says rule over with severity, this is speaking against keeping Israelite servants beyond the mandated 6-year limit. The Hebrew word radah is where we get the phrase rule over from, and this can have the sense of subduing, which means to bring under control or to rule over. And this verb parallels the word kabash that's used in Genesis 1:28, where it says, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it."
So they can both essentially mean the same thing.
Yes, they both express this need for humans to exert energy and even force to push back certain tendencies in creation that can disrupt peaceful human existence. And later, Jeremiah rebukes the Israelites for taking advantage of impoverished fellow Israelites by extending their time of servitude in violation of the Mosaic law. Interestingly, and this is Jeremiah chapter 34, he says, "You brought them into subjection to be your male servants and female servants." So again, subjection, this idea of bringing under control or ruling over, and he's saying they abused it.
Right.
So when we go back to Leviticus, this isn't talking about mistreating foreign servants. It's saying don't abuse this 6-year contract with Israelite indentured servants.
Okay?
But let's add to this. There's over 30 instances where the Israelites are told to be kind to foreigners, since Israelites were once foreigners in Egypt. And so it's silly to assume that all of a sudden they could be justified in mistreating them.
That's true.
They would be putting themselves under God's curse. Deuteronomy 27 verse 19 says, "Cursed is he who distorts the justice, due an alien, orphan, and widow." Deuteronomy 24 verse 14, "You shall not oppress a hired servant who is poor and needy, whether he is one of your countrymen or one of your aliens who is in your land in your towns."
This is good to know.
I hope this helps.